It's not just a call, it's a warning.
I grew up in Kansas, General. About as American as it gets.
Oh, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me.
The hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
The Aquaman. I hear you can talk to fish.
You can go to any timeline, any universe. Why'd fight to save this one?
He said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
You wanna get nuts? Come on!
Let's get nuts.
You have nothing to threaten me with.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. And here we go.
You know what they say about dogs. We love unconditionally.
What is up, everyone? I'm CBM Productions, and welcome back to another installment of the DC Film Retrospective. Today, we'll be discussing the latest DC animated film revolving around Superman's best friend, who has to reluctantly team up with a bunch of wild strays to save the Justice League and the Earth from its demise in the DC League of Super Pets. This film started development as early as July 2018, around the same time when the last DC animated film got released to theaters in the Teen Titans Go movie, when director Jared Stern was hired to write and direct an animated DC movie revolving around DC's Legion of Super Pets. Having been inspired by working in an animal shelter in his past, seeing that a lot of the older animals there were less likely to get adopted, and wondered what would happen if they ended up getting superpowers. His pitch went well with WB, and they greenlit the project. Over the next couple years, the film went through many development cycles, as WB's in-house animation studio, along with Animal Logic, was making the film piece by piece. Around 70 animators worked on the film for roughly 2.5 years. Not much was updated regarding the film until May 2021, when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson announced that he was not only a producer on the film, but he would also be voicing the main character of the film in Crypto the Superdog, being his second DC project to be involved in around the same time that he was shooting Black Adam. Over the next month, the rest of the cast would be announced, consisting of voices like Kevin Hart, who he and The Rock have worked on countless projects beforehand, along with Kate McKinnon, John Krasinski, Diego Luna, Keanu Reeves, Olivia Wilde, Mark Maron, and so many others. The film will complete its development and post-production cycles, as the film geared up for its May 2022 release in the States, after being delayed by a year due to WB wanting to change dates with Matrix Resurrections, also involving Keanu Reeves, if you couldn't tell. Then, starting around late last year, the film started rolling out its marketing, including a trailer and some teaser posters for the film. Then the film got bumped 2 months to July 2022, after WB switched up all their DC projects release dates earlier this year, right after the merger between WB and Discovery was finalized, pushing some movies forward and most of them back a few months. Or a lot of months, with this film taking the date previously spotted for Black Adam. But now, as the time recording this, the film has been released in theaters, to mostly positive word of mouth from both critics and audiences alike, hitting #1 at the US box office with a decent enough number, and could be a late summer hit, as the summer movie season starts to die down. But does this film add on to the pretty solid streak that DC has been having with their animated projects recently? Or is it just a forgettable throwaway kids film that is only useful to shut kids up for 2 hours and nothing more? Well, before we get into that, let's get into the plot. We start the film seeing the impending doom of Krypton, a planet on a galaxy far, far away, as we see 2 Kryptonians, Jor-El and Lara, voiced by Alfred Molina and Lena Headey. At least you got to be in one comic book movie this month, putting their infant son Kal-El into a pod to ship off to the unknown before the planet's destroyed. But, as Kal-El is being put inside his pod, the family puppy Crypto decides to jump inside with Kal-El as the two are shipped off to Earth, with nothing more than each other to hold on to. We then cut to modern day as we see Kal-El as a grown man, where he lives a double life as Clark Kent, an ordinary unassuming reporter who works at a daily planet in the city Metropolis, and his true self Kal-El, which due to the atmosphere of Earth being different than Krypton, allows him to have a whole Rolodex of superpowers, including but not limited to flight, shooting lasers from his eyes, freeze breath, being indestructible to mostly everything on Earth, being able to rebuild the Great Wall of China, oh wait, wrong movie, and so much more. Renowned around the world as the greatest superhero of all time, Superman, voiced by John Krasinski.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
Similar to Kal-El, because Krypto's not from Earth, he has the same power set as his owner does. Now all grown up and voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Now all grown up and voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the two fight crime side by side, as the two are best friends for life that no one can come between them, until someone does. One of Clark's co-workers that knows both his identities is reporter Lois Lane, voiced by Olivia Wilde. The two have dated for quite a while as the story begins, as Clark plans to propose to her and make her a part of the family, which Crypto picks up on and is terrified of being replaced by somebody else. Clark sees that Crypto is not happy with Lois and him together, so he decides to go to a local animal shelter to pick up a new friend for Crypto, as pitched by Lois. While Clark is inside, we see a select group of critters that have yet to be adopted, and have seen them been there for years at the very least, consisting of a group of rascals for this movie. There's PB, a very optimistic pot-bellied pig who's a huge fan of Wonder Woman, voiced by Vanessa Bayer. There's Merton, an elderly laid-back turtle, voiced by Natasha Lyonne. There's Chip, a paranoid squirrel, voiced by Diego Luna. Lulu, an ominous hairless guinea pig, voiced by Kate McKinnon. And then there's the so-called leader of the group, Ace, a boxer breed voiced by Kevin Hart, who has been in the shelter for some time now, and wants something to do more than just break free and head to the farm, a mystical place where animals can run free without being confined to anything, which is just a fancy tale to give the rest of his friends some hope. Ace manages to get out of the shelter while Clark enters the shelter, but Crypto's outside and hears what Ace is doing. Ace calling it a prison break, but Crypto thinks he's a criminal and easily takes care of Ace with his powers that causes Ace to get put back in the shelter. Following this, both Clark and Crypto return to their apartment, where the both of them see a meteor being pulled from the Earth's atmosphere, and behind it is none other than their archenemy Lex Luthor, voiced by Mark Maron, who wants the meteorite because it contains orange kryptonite, the opposite of green kryptonite, which is both Clark and Crypto's only weakness, where it can take away their powers, whereas the orange kryptonite can give you superpowers, as Lex wants to get those powers to fight Superman head on. But he's stopped by not only Superman and Crypto, but also the Justice League, the main superhero team on the planet that Superman is the catalyst for, consisting of heroes such as Batman, voiced by Keanu Reeves, Wonder Woman, voiced by Jamila Jamil, Aquaman, voiced by Jermaine Clement, The Flash, voiced by John Early, Cyborg, voiced by Daveed Diggs, and Green Lantern, voiced by Dasha Polanco. Following Lex's defeat and him and his henchwoman Mercy Graves, voiced by Maya Erskine, being sent to Stryker's Island, the most secure prison in the world, for their crimes. During this, Lulu managed to create a device in the shelter that pulls a chunk of the orange kryptonite in space towards the shelter, as she gets a piece of the kryptonite and manages to gain superpowers, as she explains that she was one of Lex's test guinea pigs when he was testing out the various colored kryptonites on her, causing her hair to fall out and various other things that happened to her, thinking the two had a very close bond, and knew the orange kryptonite was going to be something special. That wasn't until Superman and Crypto broke into Lex's lab and freed all of his guinea pigs, including Lulu, forcing her to be placed at the shelter, and has wanted to get back with Lex ever since. She also knows that orange kryptonite doesn't give human superpowers, only animals, as she leaves Ace and his group behind to burn in the shelter, as she tears it down and goes to start her evil plan. But before she left, when the orange kryptonite fused with her, a piece of it sputtered across the floor, affecting the other pets and giving them all superpowers as well, allowing them to escape. Afterwards, they all test out their various superpowers, with PB being able to shrink or enlarge at any size, Mern has super speed, Chip can shoot electricity from his hands, and Ace is as indestructible as Crypto is now. Speaking of, Crypto is in the middle of a fight with Clark, being mad at him for deciding to go on a date with Lois instead of watching TV with him. As Crypto's listening to Taylor Swift and eating ice cream non-stop, Lulu shows up to Clark's apartment with some green kryptonite to ward off Superman's powers and render him useless, and Lulu manages to take care of him, as Crypto sees Lulu dragging Superman on the streets below him, as Crypto tries to save his owner until he can't. Now realizing that Lulu put some kryptonite in a block of cheese that Crypto ate right before Clark left, taking away his powers as well, as Lulu flies off with Superman. Crypto sees Ace and the other pets that just broke out of the shelter and asks them for their help, but Ace has a chip on his shoulder from what happened earlier and refuses, until Crypto negotiates a deal to where he knows Ace is lying about the farm and agrees to take them to Smallville, and now revealed to the rest of the group that Ace lied if they help him defeat Lulu and get his owner back, and Ace reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Lulu managed to recruit an army of guinea pigs and gives them all superpowers like she's Thor in Love and Thunder, and causes Metropolis to run rampant as the guinea pig army manages to defeat the rest of the Justice League, as Lulu captures all of them and locks them in Lex's building. The Super Pet team tries to stop Lulu, but none of them have a hold in their powers yet, and don't really work together as a team. Lulu also reveals to Crypto that Clark was gonna propose to Lois, when she pulls out a wedding ring that was meant for her, as she throws Crypto all the way to the Hall of Justice, the Justice League headquarters, as she plans to break Lex out of Stryker's Island. The rest of the team get there quickly, as Crypto is defeated both physically and mentally. Ace tries to talk real with him about dogs and their unconditional love for their owners, as it eventually leads to revealing Ace's backstory, which shows when he was a puppy and adopted by a family of 3, 2 parents and a toddler, he was very close with them, until he tried to save a little girl from falling down the stairs, as she just started walking by pulling her from the stairs, but he had to bite her in order to do so, and the parents believe after seeing the bite mark on her arm, that Ace was being feral towards their daughter and gave Ace away to the shelter where he lived for years. He says that he wouldn't change a thing about it because despite it hurts, you gotta do what's right for the people that you love, including letting them go. After his heart-to-heart with Ace, Crypto and the rest of the team see Lulu attempting to break Lex out of Stryker's Island. Lulu gets there as well as the Super Pets and attempt to fight her, but she threatens all the teammates to lock themselves up or she'll kill Crypto, as they reluctantly do. She then fanboys out in front of Lex before freeing him, thinking they'll team up to become the ultimate supervillain, but Lex discards her immediately and locks her up in a cell, taking credit for capturing the Justice League instead. Lulu becomes enraged by this as she uses her guinea pig henchman Keith and Mark, voiced by Thomas Middleditch and Ben Schwartz, to free her from her cell, as she plans to kill the Justice League and take down Lex herself, as she leaves the superheroes to fend for themselves once again. Luckily, Crypto gains back his powers after Lulu leaves, breaks out of the cell, frees his new friends, but decides to take on Lulu herself because he doesn't want to see Ace and them hurt. Crypto then heads to the LexCorp building where the Justice League are being held at, as he takes care of Lulu's army with ease, as Lulu shows to get her revenge on Lex, as she puts him in a cell as well, and reveals that she plans to launch the Justice League into space, along with Lex, with Lulu forcing Crypto to either choose saving the Justice League as they're entering the atmosphere, or save Lois, who's in peril in a news helicopter, like she's a Green Goblin. Crypto decides to save Lois, as Ace shows up with the other super pets, and decides to bring down the rocket, as he and the other pet members manage to dismantle the rocket and bring the Justice League back to Earth. Lulu then becomes even more enraged, as she uses the orange kryptonite to infuse the molecules of the kryptonite into her DNA, and becomes a doomsday-like guinea pig, threatening the existence of everyone in Metropolis, and possibly all Earth as well, as the Super Pets and the Justice League team up to stop Lulu, but all of them can't seem to put much of a dent in her, until Crypto decides to use Solar Power Punch, a technique that he explained earlier in the film to his teammates, where he would have to shoot off into space and then shoot back to give the powerful blow so hard that it would not only defeat the enemy that the punch is directed towards, but also the hero that wields the punch, being more of a last resort self-sacrifice move. Crypto decides to give the final blow to Lulu, but Ace saves him from the knockback, as Lulu loses all her powers and is dumped at the hot dog water. Crypto sees Clark and Lois happy together, and accepts their relationship and Lois into his life, understanding the message that was sent from his late father earlier in the film. He also appreciates his new friends, as they've all gotten a good handle on their powers now, as all of them, including Keith and Mark, get adopted by all the members of the Justice League, as all of them get new superhero names, most notably Ace being adopted by Batman and given the moniker of the Bat Hound, as all of them are now dubbed the Legion of Super Pets, fighting crime alongside each other, as Crypto finally has found his friends, as credits roll to a mid-credit scene of Lulu stuck in the hot dog food cart from where we saw her last, as she's found by Mercy Graves and adopted by her, deciding to bond over to scorn of Lex Luthor, as Lulu has found a new friend as well, as credits roll to a post-credit scene of Superman and Crypto playing in the park, as another powerful being arrives to chat with the Man of Steel himself, who's none other than Black Adam, and his dog Anubis, both voiced by Dwayne Johnson as well, with Anubis talking to Crypto, debating the difference between a villain and an anti-hero, as it gets very heated, but eventually credits roll and the film ends. This is a movie that I think is a lot better than I thought it was going to be walking into it. I had very little anticipation for an animated Super Pets movie that I barely saw any marketing for. It honestly looked like The Secret Life of Pets 3, but the pets having superpowers this time around. And although there was definitely some flavor of that in here, it's certainly a lot more quality than I expected it to be. Which I guess makes sense, since it is the new direction that WB is taking with DC properties now. It's a movie that has a very good wit and meta sense to it, that very much falls in line with most of DC's recent animated ventures that have been released in the theaters, such as the Lego Batman movie and Teen Titans Go movie. Being a treat for superhero fans, it does poke fun at both DC, Marvel, superhero tropes as is, and a lot of that mixes well with the kid humor to keep families entertained, especially if you're somewhat knowledgeable of the DC universe. The voice acting all around is pretty solid. I'm not the biggest fan of how most anime films nowadays decide to stuff their cast with well-known actors instead of trained voice actors, like kids are gonna care that Michael Cera's voicing a dog in Paws of Fury, and I guess most adults didn't care either looking at the box office. But as for the cast of this movie, they all do pretty well with the material they're given. The Rock and Kevin Hart have proven time and time again they have great chemistry with one another, and their dialogue throughout this film does give good material for these actors to bounce off one another, as both Crypto and Ace. And they're basically the heartbeat of the movie in my opinion, with each getting good character arcs and really being able to bond over the course of the runtime. Kim McKinnon is fun as the villain of Lulu, really chewing up the scenery as this mischievous guinea pig that wants to appease Lex Luthor at all costs, and then just goes doomsday mode by the end. It was a fun transition to see this character in, and Kim McKinnon brings a similar energy to what she brings to SNL and other comedy projects in that vein. Our Super Pets team consists of a lot of fun characters, such as PB, Chip, and Merton, all performed well by their respective actors, especially Diego Luna's Chip being a standout in my opinion, who I felt was the most fun side character of the group, but Merton does get most of the adult humor in the movie, which personally was the funniest bits of the film aside the superhero meta jokes. Keanu Reeves is also a big standout in here as Batman, although he's very much a supporting character. If they ever make a solo film out of his Batman, like Warner Animation did with Will Arnett, I would be totally down to see it because Keanu brings all the Batman isms that people have made fun of since Christian Bale's take on the character, even beforehand, but somehow still brings something new to the table in my opinion. Everybody else from John Krasinski, Olivia Wilde, Mark Maron, etc. all do well in their respective roles alongside our main characters. The animation is quite solid, and although this definitely isn't on the scope of a Disney or Pixar production, has a unique comic flavor to it that does make it appealing to the eye. It makes it worthy enough of being released in theaters in my opinion. The pacing is for the most part solid, and keeps things tight around the hour 45 minute mark to where things don't drag too much, to where you're in and out of that theater, having a fun time, but not overstaying its welcome. The movie has some pretty good emotional stuff as well, especially regarding the backstory of Ace actually making me empathetic for the character, and the whole message of finding new friends and stepping outside of your boundaries to trust others. Although definitely not revolutionary, still is a good message overall to teach the kids and possibly some adults as well. The whole story of Crypto being stripped of his powers and him having to rely on these runs to the litter, so to speak, to help save the Justice League and the world, was a fun story to go on and does give reasons as to why Crypto can't just stop the plot in 5 seconds. And the whole banter the group had was legitimately entertaining to see, and not as grating as I thought it would be. It was an enjoyable experience for me, and I hope that this streak of solidly entertaining DC animated movies continues, because I would rather get a sequel to this than another Minions movie in the future. Now, pretty much everything I'm going to say in this section is superfluous in my opinion. There's nothing in this film that I should have hated or strongly disliked. To be honest with you, this is not really a movie that I'm very passionate about or have a lot to say on it. It's a movie that was mostly in one ear, not the other. While there are definitely some moments in this film that will live rent-free in my head for the foreseeable future, mostly everything with Keanu's Batman, a lot of this film to me just summed up to being a fun time in the movies and not much else. This is not a film that I plan on rewatching anytime soon or rushing to own on Blu-ray. It's a movie that I only see myself really revisiting if I'm babysitting, which I haven't done in like 5 years, or rewatching if WB ever greenlights a sequel to this, and wants to remember what happens. Other than that, it's not really a movie that I'm super passionate towards. Beyond that, despite the movie overall did put a smile on my face, a lot of the standard Illumination kitty humor that you can detect in any kids film nowadays definitely has a presence in this film, and whenever this film's appeasing to its target demographic, I just kinda zone out. But again, this film wasn't made for me. Granted, the filmmakers did have the adults in mind with a lot of the humor in the movie, even trying to tie it to Black Adam, but the post-credit scene essentially acting as an advert for Black Adam. But at the end of the day, it'll be the kids that will drag their parents to see this movie. And that's kind of a double-edged sword with a film like this. The film for the most part feels like a kids movie that was injected with DC characters rather than a DC film built from the ground up. While this movie has a lot of DC references and such, a lot of the time when you're with the super pets themselves, since a lot of these characters to my knowledge were made up for the movie, and even Ace feels like a completely different character in the movie to what you usually think of Ace the Bat Hound. Instead of this dark brooding dog in the vein of Batman, it feels more like, you know, Kevin Hart being Kevin Hart. It more or less feels like a compilation of segments of characters doing random segments. It more or less feels like a compilation of segments of characters just doing random shenanigans. I'm not offended by this, but this film kind of has to remind you that it's part of the DC universe. And that just struck as odd to me. I also feel like the film does drag out its climax quite a bit, especially regarding to how stretched out the final battle feels between our heroes and Lulu, feeling like it just goes on too long. And with how predictable a lot of the story beats are in the movie, I knew where I was heading. I just kind of wanted it to be done. The film doesn't really do anything that hasn't already been done before in a superhero animated film, and just does a standard formula. And for what it's trying to go for, it succeeds at being entertaining, but not something that sticks with you after the credits roll. Overall, DC League of Super Pets is a fun enough ride in the DC universe. With a bunch of fun characters, which is well animated, well directed, and decently written, has a solid voice cast with good banter, especially between our two leads, has a couple good messages at the center, and has a lot more superhero meta and adult humor thrown in the mix than I expected, giving something for the whole family to chew on. But the film is very much one ear, not the other. It's not super memorable, has some of that kitty humor that I've just grown out of, for the most part, has a couple pacing issues, it's very much on the path of predictability when it comes to storyline and plot beats, and it's not really super rewatchable either, but I can't lie and say I didn't have an enjoyable experience watching it, and definitely it's better than a lot of the other kids movies that you can choose from right now. So if you need to take your kids or siblings to a film to calm them down for 2 hours, this is far from your worst option, but there's not much else there besides that. I give DC League of Super Pets a B, a 7.5 out of 10, and a red to recommendation. So that's DC League of Super Pets. What do you guys think about it? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. I'm CB Aaron Productions, and this isn't the last DC film to review, because justice needs to be served.